All right, what is going on? How y'all doing out there in Atlanta Bird Gangland and also on YouTube on Uncle Steve's Lounge? I love the traction we're getting the last couple of days. Obviously, with the start of the NFL season, a lot more folks out here want to talk NFL, want to talk football, and however you want to look at it, want to talk Atlanta Falcons football, which of course the last 24 hours have not been kind to the Atlanta Falcons as we took one on the chin to our rivals, the New Orleans Saints, 27-26. I don't even want to replay recap in your mind. You all know what happened. It's a familiar story. And that's what we're going to talk about. It's almost a kind of a cleansing, if you should say, a free cleanse. We're not going to charge any money for this. But just to kind of get those last awful feelings out, because believe it or not, folks, we got 16 more of these things. So as awful as yesterday was, at least the ending, and as bad as we feel, especially losing to who we lost to, at some point, there is going to be a point in the week where we have to move on. And I know the players are going to have to move on as well. If you're on Uncle Steve's Lounge on YouTube, please subscribe, tell your friends, let everybody know that we are here. We are going to take guests today. We're going to pop in. We got a couple of guests that's going to stay with us, and then a couple of people, if you feel like popping in for a few minutes and talking to us, let us know. But at the same time, again, kind of a little bit of a, not to go over every single play of the game, especially the fourth quarter. That was our demise. Just to kind of, get the feeling of the fans. And that's really what I'm all about most of the time. The minutia of what the coaches have to go through, the decision making. I'm all about that from a sense of trying to, kind of guess what they're calling and what they're planning on. I really, we can guess all day what the coaches are thinking, but at the end of the day, we only know what the result is on the field. I want to talk about that a little bit. From a fan standpoint, my biggest question was yesterday, after yesterday's game, it's 24 hours. Of course, we're still a little hurting, y'all. We hurting a little bit. But did you see signs of hope? Or are you leaning more towards the same old Falcons? Being a forever pessimist, it's kind of hard not to get memories of certain games in this franchise. But in fairness, this is Arthur Smith's regime. So while he hasn't had those hardcore losses like we had back in 17, the couple of times we did it in 2019 when we had the unfortunate things against Dallas and Chicago, or is this, did you see enough in this game to say, okay, well, we lost, but I see this. I'm really on the fence, man. I'm totally on the fence. I hate the same old Falcon narrative. I hate it as much as the next person when it comes to a fan, but man, it's hard to ignore, especially when you hear those folks who really aren't fans come up and say it. But it is hard to ignore when you see your team go and do the same things over and over and over again. It really is hard. All right, I'm gonna go to these comments real quick. Senkwa, what's going on? Says signs of hope for him, and I can understand how you would say that. That you did see signs of hope. We'll go over in a quick second. Brother False Start, how you doing on Uncle Steve's Lounge? I'm off the ledge. Just a few hours. Hey, I think we were all on that ledge, man. It's tough not to, man. It's tough. Warren, how you doing? Warren said, I'm still pissed. Hate the Saints. That makes two of us. I think that makes the majority of people that watch this. I understand there is a hate for the Saints, which digs in a little more. I'm sorry. Yeah, it hurts to blow that lead, just like it hurt to blow against Dallas. And a perfect example was that year, the Dallas game and the Chicago game. That Dallas game, even though Dallas is not a rival, but Dallas is a team that you want to beat, that hurt more than the Chicago game because you were about to beat America's team. So that meant a lot more. The Saints losing this way to the Saints, woo! Oh my goodness, it's something else. Jermaine says, I blame Dean Pease when we were up 26-10 and loosened up the offense. Fair points. D, what's going on? Say, what's going on? I finally got to wake up and grasp what happened yesterday, but we still have a long season to go, and I believe we will improve. And again, I mean, hey, I get it. Senkwa says, circle December 18th. That's the rematch down in New Orleans. It says, and keep it moving. And keep it moving. All right. RJ says, hope. I get it. False Start goes back, says, we look good, especially if we don't put the ball on the ground, which is critical when you say that. Ryan, what's going on, brother? Ryan says, what it do, Uncle Steve? Say, got to move on from yesterday. It's in the can. We got a lot to look forward to in L.A. And build upon it. I'll say we got some things to work on, but we got some talent though, and we see that we can compete. And and it's hard to tell folks. It's hard to tell people. I think people have a hard time moving on, Ryan, in this particular situation because it is the Saints. That made a big difference again. Season opener, that crowd was ready to celebrate their winner, and we didn't get an opportunity to, and that hurts. I know people don't want to admit that, but that absolutely hurts not being able to celebrate that win at the Dome like we should have been, or the Benz. Mo says, I can deal with losing, but not in this fashion. These are the ones that sting so bad they ruin your whole week. And that's almost why you want to hurry up and get to that Rams game, no matter how it turns out, because you're not going to get that taste out of your mouth. I talked about it a long time ago when we lost the game in February 2017 that everybody talks about. You know, if you've ever had acid reflux before, you know how acid reflux tends to stay with you for a little while. I mean, in the short term, but it stays with you. That little part shoots back up, and you can't get it off, and you need lemon or whatever it is to maneuver it off and do all of that stuff. It kind of reminds you of that. It reminds you that it's there, it's stuck there for a minute, but then eventually it goes away. I think that's what's going to happen with this. What better remedy than to have a win? But I would love for that to go away if we could. TJ, what's going on, man? TJ said, I thought we would call for Ritter week 7, but some are asking for him now, which I do think is a mistake, TJ. I don't think Ritter, I'm not sure if Ritter would have done any better in that situation or not. I as a rookie, first game against the Saints, I'm not sure. Some of the things that Mariota did, almost wish you would have. Of course, Ritter, I think he has a smidge more speed. Not that that would have done us any good. I just would have liked to see Mariota run the ball out of bounds to his own admission, maybe slide in a couple of those situations. Uh, just on the field awareness, which he fessed up to a couple of times when he was talking about not knowing where the first down marker was. And at such a critical juncture of the game where you were getting ready to truly take over, I would have loved if he had done that. That would have been great. What's going on? I'm sorry, go there. Mo says, I just read that. Sorry about that. Let me go to the next comment. Let's do that. That's Warren. Warren says, someone says that Arthur Smith said in his interview the defense stayed aggressive. If this is true, because I didn't see that on my TV. I think he said they switched up and tried to stay aggressive with the switching up. Now, it all looks good until it goes wrong. And when I say that is maybe they were switching things up in the first three quarters. I don't know. Whoever were making the decisions in the last quarter, though, they need to reevaluate how they think of things, because there was obviously not some good decisions made in that fourth quarter. Matter of fact, dare I say, those were awful decisions made in the fourth quarter. And I think you have to call it what it is, man. You have to. It was not good football, not good football at all. So you do have to look out for that. So the signs of hope, man, signs of hope, and obviously all of that stayed in the first three quarters. Gotta look at the way the defense played up until that fourth quarter. And listen, I know the comparisons because how they came back and all of that good stuff. It's gonna come. But at the same time, you gotta like the fact that we were putting some pressure on. First time you've seen an aggressive pressure put on the quarterback. They made Jameis uncomfortable in the first half. Jameis was missing passes. I don't know, maybe he was nervous. And some of the things he was doing in the first half were looking like a rookie himself. So from his standpoint, I think he was under the gun, and we hadn't seen our defense do that in a long time. Of course, the offensive line, we talked about it ad nauseum for the last couple of years. And one game does not make a season, but you can't ignore how good the offensive line looked in this game. Dare I say, they were one of the main reasons we were in the game, stayed in the game, and did what we did. I liked what I saw out of them. Senqua says the secondary has to play all four quarters as well. I not only say the secondary, I say the whole team. Now, don't get me wrong. I think, Senqua, one of the reasons that the defense looked as good as they did is because the front seven was putting pressure on the quarterback, and we pretty much stuffed the run. If you think about it, aside of one, I think Kamara had one run that was over 10 yards. Aside of that, I know he didn't get 40 yards. If I'm not mistaken, I'm going to have to go and look that up. But I'm pretty sure he got under 40 yards in that game. If he got 40 yards, it was barely over it. But I don't think he did as well. It also says we need a closer on defense. Absolutely, we do. We do need a closer. Now, I did notice that they started to put pressure on him in the end, and New Orleans definitely responded to the pressure a lot better than they were earlier in the game. So maybe that had some effect on it or not. I don't know. Christian, what's going on, man? Christian says, what's going on, Uncle Steve? How you doing, brother? Good to see you in the house up there. Good to see you. Come back in here. Senqua says, absolutely, the blitz packages were great. Yeah, you like what you saw out of that. Also says, yeah, Taysom Hill got his big explosive play. Yeah, a couple of big explosive plays. And I don't understand that. And maybe that's something that they do next time and just make sure that play doesn't kill him. I mean, every time he touched the ball, he got that was it. I know he got obviously the very long one, and then he scored the touchdown. It just scared me that every time he got the ball, he was able to run that far. Just crazy. Hey, Lisa, how you doing? Lisa says today after. Yeah, I can imagine. Um, Warren says, "Hey, Steve, what about the 4th and 1? Good call, bad call." I think it was a bad call for a lot of reasons. One, your offensive line was dominating. It was a game that pretty much both sides of the ball. Look, I know what the score was. I don't need anybody to remind me, and I know wins and losses are all that matters. So save your typing if that's what you're going to say. But we controlled the line of scrimmage this game, both sides. And uh, you have to give Jameis a lot of credit. Jameis, who looked horrible the first 3 quarters, made the throws when he needed to. Michael Thomas stepped up when he needed to. I think the way the offensive line was going, I think you go for it. I think there were a couple of opportunities that you go for. Even the one that was 4th and 3, and I'm not sure if I would have absolutely ran it, but there was nothing showing me that they were going to stop us the way we were controlling the line of scrimmage. CP was basically falling 4 yards every time he got the ball. Man, I think I only saw one time when they actually pushed him back. But I like the odds. 4th and 1. Matter of fact, if you're smart, since you want to play that game, you got 2 timeouts. You could have tried to, as aggressive as they needed to stop that 4th and 1. Try to see if you can draw them off sides first. Draw them off sides. See if they jump. Bark out a couple of dummy calls. See if they move. There were so many things you could have done, and I know in the moment as a coach that you're trying to do what you need to do as far as decision makings. He even said it in his own presser. If given the opportunity, maybe he would change his mind. So maybe that's it too. What's going on, Gino? How you doing, brother? I am going to let's see. They let one wide receiver beat them in the fourth. Well, Landry had a couple of key passes too. I mean, Thomas did his thing, but I think you got to give Landry some credit as well. You let Jameis kill you because you weren't able to land that pressure when you needed to. And there was actually one play where he got the pressure, and it was and he got the pass out anyway. My brother Clayton, how you doing, Clayton? Clayton says, I hate the Aints. We give them so many opportunities and vice versa. The difference, they capitalize on our mistakes. Heel run, 50-50 ball, creating turnovers. But I do see us getting better than last year. But I really think we outrun ourselves. They said that wasn't fatigue, but you clearly see Pitts gasping for air, and AJ slowed down to me. All valid points. I will say this. Matter of fact, let me ask her a couple more questions first. Lisa says that 4th and 1 was a bad call. You have to go for it in that situation. Yeah, going back saying, yeah, Landry had 100 yards. He did. He had more yards than Michael Thomas. Yeah, it wasn't just Thomas. Some of those passes to set up Thomas thrown to Landry were very critical at those points. Christian said, I rewatched the game again from yesterday. Honestly, we are not the same team as last year. The energy this team has is different, and the offense looks pretty solid. The fan base seems to be excited for what's to come. I think if people can detach, and you're not going to get people to detach 24 hours later, so it's going to take a second. And matter of fact, it'll probably take the next game. If you're going to get people to detach from this game, and it's harder because it's New Orleans. Again, if this was a loss to Cleveland or if this was a loss to Tennessee, it would be easier to detach. But because it's those Saints, it's just hard. People have a short memory. It was just last year where the Saints was leading us. And then everybody's talking about the long ball to Cordero Patterson, and we won that game in the last minute. So when you start talking about the Saints having a field day, we had a field day in that one, and that was at their place. So it goes back and forth with the rivalry, but you cannot ignore that, that hurts. That hurts. TJ says, you and I were there, and Jameis was putting that ball where only his guys could get it. And I don't think AJ was bad in the coverage. One of the plays, AJ did everything in his power, and he just caught it. I mean, Jameis put that bad boy right where you had to put it. That's why, to me, it was crucial. I would have rather had that blitzing linebacker to give Jameis some problems as opposed to giving him an opportunity to get a good throw off. You're right, TJ. Both of those, from my vantage point, and the ball was literally coming in the direction where we were. There was no other place Jameis could put it, and he put it on spot. I don't even like giving credit where to them guys, but you got to give the love where it is. Falstad says, we used Kyle Pitts the wrong way. He was a vertical threat at Florida. We're not using him like that. Well, I mean, you draft somebody in the 4th round, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to put it, the coach uses you like you do. And you can't say 100% that's not the case. He broke the rookie record for most yards as a tight end. So it's not like they're not attempting to get the ball to him. I mean, this is one game, y'all. This is one game, and I don't want it to feel like it's all over with one game, but come on. One game does not Kyle Pitts make. Matter of fact, it was last year. I can't remember, but Pitts didn't get that many. I don't think he got that many. Or maybe he did get that many looks, but I don't think it was significant against the Eagles last year. So, yeah, I would hold tight on the criticism of Kyle Pitts right now. Matter of fact, you know what I did see Kyle Pitts do? On one of those plays that Cordero Patterson was going on he cut back in on the inside. Kyle Pitts sealed his block. He did a lot better job of that than I saw him anytime last year. His blocking has improved. I'm sorry, he's a tight end. That's going to be what he does most. And that's probably going to make him effective the most, because you can't have the tight end just be a catching threat all the time. You got to run that ball. And they ran the ball successfully yesterday. And it wasn't just gimmick runs from Mariota. It was some solid offensive line play in the running game. Got to give them credit. Hayward let Landry run down the field. Yeah, that was embarrassing. Hayward did not have a great game as well. The secondary didn't have a great game in the 4th quarter. I think the reason the secondary didn't have a great game in the first 3 quarters was because of the pressure of the front 7. I think the front 7 did a marvelous job, and something I haven't heard anybody say about yesterday. For the most part, there were a couple of misses. For the most part, we had some pretty decent tackling. For the most part, there were a couple of misses. There were definitely a couple of misses. Mike, what's going on? Mike said head coach overthinks way too much, in my opinion. Here's my thing on that, Mike, and I'm not trying to be an Arthur Smith apologist, because I think he made some judgments that were not great in that game. I think in the heat of the battle, I think in the heat of the moment, is not only the right call, is being able to hurry up and come up with the right next call. And maybe, that's where he doesn't have that experience quite yet. 1 year does not make a great head coach. I don't care how you come out of the box. You have to have that experience over the next couple of years. You got to lose a couple of like you did yesterday, and you got to win a couple of like New Orleans did yesterday in order to become a full coach. You got to. Sanquan says, perfect throw, perfect catch. Yeah, for Jameis. And as much as I criticize crab legs, good and well, I was ready to pounce on him if they lost that game, but you got to give credit where credit is due. Norman says, "What's up, Steve? We have a totally different team than last year. Give us a few more games to really gel." Thank you, Norman. I appreciate that. And for those of you just coming in, we're asking you all yesterday, signs of hope or the same old Falcons. I've heard the narrative, same old Falcons all the time. And I'm not blaming anybody for thinking that, but 24 hours later, is that what you think? In the moment, it's easy because everybody's trying to get the tweet out and everybody's trying to get the Facebook post out. I do it myself. So you're trying to get out and get that first word. I get it. But 24 hours later, and truly looking at the game, I have sat down here and looked on this particular TV and watched the game just about twice, kind of fast forward in the spots. Atlanta did not play a horrible overall game. They played a horrible fourth quarter. They did not play a horrible overall game. So, yes, Super Bowl notwithstanding, I understand how that goes back to that. But you got to look at the positives. This team has not been together. This current configuration of the Atlanta Falcons has been together for one regular season game. Did we get too hyped too quick? Did the guys have fatigue? Did they give out in the fourth quarter? Did coach make the right coaching changes? Or did the players just quite frankly have brain cramps? I don't know. But you're going to learn from these things later on. You gotta look at everything. Gino says they doubled him. That's why. I'm sorry. Let's go back. TJ says they bracketed Pitts and forced someone else to beat them. He basically got the Julio coverage. And that was what was going on as far as catching it. And then also remember, TJ, I know you were there too, watching the game. I don't know if the angle was shown on TV. He thought, for some reason, Mariota thought Kyle Pitts was 8 foot tall because it seemed like every pass, and including a couple of them later on from that he tried to hit OZ on, he was overthrowing those guys early. Let's also go back, if we're being complete in our critique. Younghoe Koo probably stood as your MVP of this game. And he shouldn't have been, because you should have scored on 2 of those 4 field goals. I understand the one before the half, you were trying to hurry up and get down. I don't take that drive. But there were some other drives that you kind of stumped yourself with penalties and things of that nature when you should have drove that ball down for a touchdown. We could have mentally got New Orleans out of that game early, because aside of the little scat back number 7 in the first half, New Orleans did nothing. I mean, nothing. You let Taysom Hill come in there and take over for one drive and score a touchdown. And aside of that, he did nothing. So we've got to stop the narrative of, just, clinching up in that fourth quarter. And that just comes with time and experience. Hopefully they'll learn from that. Christian says, Steve, I know I'm late asking this question. When you went to open practice at the Benz, what questions did you ask Terry? Oh, when we were talking about it, I was talking about he came over when we were sitting down and he was asking, I asked him how did he like Atlanta, and he was giving me his lowdown on, a couple of places he liked to go, and his family's got a chance to go to Ruth Chris, and he said he's also just chilled out and went to a couple of the local restaurants where he was, and then he started talking about high school football. Because I told him, I said, yeah, I'm born and raised here. So I say, anything you need to know, I'll tell you. He said, man, you need to tell me about these high schools. He said he just went to a game with Grayson. Of course, those of you here in the Georgia area know about Grayson football recently, and they've been pretty dominant, even on a national ranking level. And he was saying, man, these guys are big boys. And I told him, I said, yeah, maybe you need to start scouting early and follow these guys into college. He said, I know. So that's basically what we talked about. It was more personal feel than it was, hey, so what do you think? You think Kyle Pitts is going to get um, 4 touches a game? It was more on a personal level than that. Gino says Hayward is trash. Now listen, I know after yesterday, and look, we didn't even call Hayward's name until the fourth quarter. So I don't even know people knew he existed up to that point. So I'll say he had a horrible game. I need more of a body of work before I completely throw him under the bus. But yesterday, yes, he did not look good. Gregory says, signs of hope. When is the last time you heard a Falcon fan mention the defensive line and not the offensive line? Greg, you hit that right on the head, man. Matter of fact, dare I say, Greg, I think, tell me if I'm lying, y'all. I know we lost the game, so before y'all say, but we lost, I know what the outcome was, trust me. But we controlled the line of scrimmage. And when you control the line of scrimmage, you have a great opportunity to win. And I think that's what ended up happening the first 3 quarters. It gave that opportunity. What's up, Mike? How you doing, brother? Good to see you out there. Christian said they played better than last year's home game. I know we lost 32-6. I remember. I'm proud we didn't let Kamara run off the play. And that's the thing, too. We stopped the run. I never thought I would say that, but we did. Let me go back over here, y'all. I got a couple of platforms going on. Appreciate the comments, and I always want to make sure that everybody's being represented. So let me pull this back a little bit. There he goes. And Senqua said, and this is not the run and shoot Air Courier offense. Man, what you know about that, man? And what his point is, this is not going to be 3 receivers getting 1,000 yards this year. So everybody thinking that if Kyle Pitts is going to get 1,000, Drake London's going to get 1,500, and Hodge, who caught a couple of passes yesterday, is going to get 1,000. That's not what this offense is built to be. You're absolutely right. This is meant to be, and I'm getting ready to pull up the stats from yesterday. This particular offense is meant to ball control and control the game. That's what this is. That's what this offense is meant to do. I'm trying to pull up stats for yesterday so y'all can take a look at it with me. But here we go. Here we go, y'all. Here we go. Atlanta. Okay, and then the box score for the sorry Saints yesterday. Okay, let me let the computer stop doing what it's doing, and then I'll pull that up in 1 second. Okay, it'll be more handoffs and quarterback keeps than passing attempts, and it was working. Mariota was the perfect perfect game managing quarterback. I don't think he's meant to be Josh Allen and just throw it all over the place. I don't think he's meant to be Aaron Rodgers. I think he's meant to do what he did yesterday, minus the fumbles. Mike says the Aints took Pitts out of the game and dared us to beat him with the other receivers. And for a minute, we were. I think Mariota, and you can question me if you want to, but I think he was a little nervous yesterday. I really think he was. I think he was a little nervous. If you ask me, some of those throws, the way they were coming off, I think he was trying to force a couple of things. Again, there was a couple of them to Kyle Pitts that were way over his head. I think he was forcing it. Clayton says, give it up for the O-line, 0 sacks. Not only 0 sacks, but 200 yards of rushing. The O-line is at the end of the game, they did get a little bit more penetration, but for the most part, you got to give them credit. Yeah, and it was 0 sacks. Fallstar says the Rams will have their handful Sunday. And I'm trying to tell people, listen, before the season starts and before I saw that game against Buffalo, the Rams are not flawless. their run game is kind of interesting. Now, don't get me wrong, the Rams are going to make adjustments like we're going to make adjustments. But all of a sudden, going into this Rams game, I have a different feel than I did in preseason when we were saying the Rams are going to run roughshod on us. Now, it could still happen, but at the same time, who knows? Rick, what's going on? Rick says coaching plumped out in the fourth. We really have a way better team. And it's interesting to me that I see some of the optimism in a lot of you all, and not being blinded to say, yes, we're unhappy with how it ended, but you saw enough to say, okay, you could almost argue those first three quarters were more than we saw almost completely last year. Because I don't think I remember a game that we played where truly the offenses was stymied. Kamara not being able to get up the field. Ain't that good. Rusty says, same old Falcons as far as coaching goes because they have not proven they know how to coach yet. Team seems to be playing with a chip, though. Respect your comment. Warren says, got to finish in the fourth and seal the deal to change the stigma of being the same old Falcons. And that's one of the reasons why I want to make sure that I give everybody an opportunity to talk about it, because that's what I'm talking about. There are some that still are on the optimistic level, and there are some that, listen, until the Falcons give me a reason to say we're moving in the right direction, and that means a complete game. That's what that means. That's when I'll be sold, and some folks aren't. Okay, Nicole says and I'm pretty sure she meant to finish that up. We'll see that. Mike says, I think when Jameis went into the tent, he ate some crab legs and became unstoppable. I don't know what he did, but he was definitely a different person when he came back out there. Give him a lot of credit. Raymond's checking us out on Uncle Steve's Lounge. I appreciate it, Raymond. Said we had way too many chances. We had many, many chances. Coaches got to disregard the cruise control function on our car. Didn't even touch it. And I'm just telling you, Raymond, to be there and see the dominance of that game and to hear the whispers, and I mean whispers of Saints fans in those stands, was music to my ears. But boy, when Mariota fumbled that ball and gave them life. Now, keeping it real, Mariota fumbled. They didn't do anything the next drive, but then we came down and kicked the field goal. I think Saints fans were probably, ladies were grabbing their purses, guys were grabbing their keys. They were checking their plane tickets. If Mariota goes in there and scores that touchdown, I think half of the Saints fans leave, in my opinion. Keith, what's going on? Keith says, definitely signs of hope. There were a lot of good things yesterday. Defense might be slightly ahead of the offense. Not still understanding why we can't score more touchdowns, which is definitely something I mentioned earlier. You gotta be able to push it in, man. You gotta get in there and score. Again, not making excuses for the 2022 team. This is the first game they've been out there. Let's hope this is getting to know you and maybe being able to correct some of those things, because we really need to correct some of those things to start turning some of those young way cool. I love the fact that he kicked 4 field goals yesterday. I would have liked if he kicked more 2, and the other 2 were converted into touchdowns. We got to be better than that. We must be. Sanquan says Tyler Algier might have to be activated. CP admitted to cramping up during the amount of touches. I believe it. Now, if you remember at the beginning of the game, they were switching back and forth with him and Damian a little bit. So when Damian got hurt, I think that kind of screwed it up, because soon as Damian got hurt and my son was sitting next to me, I said, this is where the Algier thing is going to mess you up. Now, they ended up wanting to put another tight end into the active roster. But judging by what I saw yesterday from Damian with his ribs. I don't know whether it's bruised. I'm sure the injury report will come out. But after it does, we'll see if that's going to be anything more serious or not. I think Tyler gets called back up this week. What's up, Wallace? How you doing? Tough loss that we should have won, without a doubt. I think so. Mike, if Koo is the MVP every game, we're in trouble. No doubt. Okay, Nicole, there you go. I see you. So, same old Falcons, because Arthur Smith and Dean Pease were in this situation a few times last year, and they still haven't learned the lesson. The players, I'm not going to be too hard on them. Hurt, yet the coaches get no pass from me. Absolutely fair analysis to talk about the coaches. I think there was some critical decision making as far as not only the situation Dean Pease put them in schematically, defensively, but I don't want to just look at the defense. I think even when New Orleans scored that first touchdown, the mere fact that we couldn't sustain a drive long enough to kind of eat some more of that clock. Because remember, the more we ate that clock and went down the field, the less time New Orleans would have, and they would probably have to start calling some timeouts earlier than they did. So, kudos to you on your comment, because I feel like they should have made some different play calls. Again, Arthur Smith alluded to it not only in today's presser, but yesterday's presser. There were some decisions that probably could have been made a little differently, but you can't always go back in time. The O-line was good, Nicole says yesterday, but guess who was missing? Oh, you're talking about our boy Mayfield. Yeah, I know. Simca says Arthur Smith is under the Mike Mularkey coaching tree. Hey, that's what Mike Mularkey did. If you think about those first years, for those Falcon fans who can remember back in 2008 and stuff, it was the Michael Turner show. They didn't let Matt throw that thing all over the place when he first got here. Matt threw a couple of nice little passes, but for the most part, it was run left, run right. And I think at that time, was Snelling still on the team? I think that was Snelling that was still on the team too. And I trying to remember, was that Ovi at fullback, or did we get Ovi a year afterwards? I don't think Ovi was here in 08. I think he came either in 09 or 10 and shored up that running game. But yeah, Wallace says, yes, we score a touchdown before the half without Mario to fumble. Game should have been over because the score would have been 30-7. Absolutely good point. We sure could have. Jermaine says, if Atlanta just ran the ball on fourth down, the Falcons would have won that game instead of this insanity that we're facing now. Jermaine, I point that out. I'm glad that you did. If there was a question that Arthur Smith, he was in his feelings yesterday. Yeah, listen, I'm not mad. You're going to be in your feelings when you lose a game like that, when you just kind of lose it instead of them winning it. He seemed to question. I think it was the closest you're going to get to a coach saying, yeah, probably should have done that. Go back and look at the presser yesterday where he had a little attitude, and then today when he was a little bit calmer and things like that. And in fairness, in his presser today, I know he was not too kind to the media yesterday. He did kind of step it back a little bit and, feel like he was part of the whole process of right call, wrong call. Folks, I wanted to bring some help in here so y'all don't just hear my voice. I'm bringing my buddy Alberto here. He's gonna come join us from 95 North Sports Talk. What's going on, my friend? Hold on, let me turn you up so I can hear you.
Yeah, how you doing, man? I good up down there in the south because I'm up here 95 North, just like the title, man.
There we go.
Lonely Rhode Island up there, man. Got to talk this out stuff, man. How's everything going?
Man, everything is great, buddy. I always appreciate you coming in. What I made the theme today in this Monday aftermath was, hold on, let me turn down my other volume here. My apologies. There we go. All right. So what I did was I wanted to put it to the people to say, did you see signs of hope, or is this the same old Falcons as far as you're concerned?
Oh man, great question. Definitely signs of hope. Let's start with that.
Mm-hmm.
Right off the rip, the defense is what pops out. I mean, we ended the game with X amount of hurries. I don't know how many quarterback pressures or hurries we had, but the key number 4 sacks. We were able to create, exotic blitzes. Dean Pease did an incredible job of disguising those blitzes. We were getting home. We had crab legs looking like a shake fake, if you ask me, man, because he couldn't diagnose the blitzes and where they were coming from, and it was evident. Grady Jarrett bested his last year's total from 1 sack to 2 sacks, or sack and a half. Arnold Ebiketie got some. Michael Walker got some, and Michael Walker being the so-called leader on defense, so to say. I mean, when Dean Pease entrusts you to call the plays or relay the plays to the plays, that shows a huge vote of confidence in his ability. And of course, he's been knocking on the door for the past 3 years, and every time that boy's on the field, man, he always makes something happen, and it was evident yesterday as well with the play calling and the sack.
Trajectory going up. And,
yep.
and that's what you look when you see the players that make the move year to year and they're getting better. And he mentioned yesterday, I didn't know this, that was his first ever sack last year. And then he was the one that got the pick 6 last year as well.
Yes, he was
in the game. So you like to see the young players. You saw flashes of Richie Grant yesterday.
Yes.
So these guys, AK with a sack. You like to see your draft picks grow within the system, and I like that. One of the other things that I hadn't had a chance to talk to everybody about, and I'm going to bring you in on some of the comments we're making.
Sure.
What was the turning point for you? I know I've heard so many critiques about certain things, but to you, at what point did you, in your mind, say, uh-oh?
I think what I'm about to say, a lot of folks have probably already said it, but that 3rd-and-1 play where Mariota fumbled the ball. Right there. I think that was the turning point in the game. Momentum you started seeing shifting, if not already shifted, because New Orleans was already on the board and they were getting hot. And having to kick the ball back to them, giving them, them being the hot hand, that's what really turned the events for the game, man. You could almost feel the life was starting to, come out of I keep saying the dome, man, because
I just did it today. it is a dome, but they call it kids. So.
right. But this Mercedes-Benz, you can definitely feel the oxygen was starting to come out of there, man, because it was gasping, folks, and everybody's probably saying, "Uh-oh, not again."
Right. And one of the things I mentioned to people when we start talking about momentum shifts is the decision on the 4th-and-1. And I'll even say, I know the 3rd-and-1, they fumbled the ball on that one, but it also was a 4th-and-3 that I almost said to myself, the way the offensive line was dominating that game. I'm sorry, you don't have 200 yards if you're not dominating.
Correct.
The pressure it would have been to not only try it, but even fake it a little bit. Think about it. New Orleans needs the ball back.
Yep.
You go up there and do a dummy count.
Yep.
And maybe draw them off. What was your thought when they had the 4th-and-1 and an opportunity to seal this bad boy up and send them home?
Definitely something, a hard count, like you just mentioned, bring somebody in. They have a lot of aggressive defenders on that side of the ball, Cam Jordan being one of them. Could have easily drew one of them gentlemen off sides. But that's something where the creativity that Arthur Smith, so-called has, or his wisdom, should have been in display. I mean, that's where the Kyle Pitts should have been involved. They couldn't stop Cordero Patterson at all. Cordero Patterson on a nice little pitch play, he could have picked up 2 or 3 yards. Hell, he was falling for 4 and 5 yards. You know what I mean? All game, something like that. Hey, Brian Edwards, we just got you from Las Vegas. Here's your chance. Make a name for yourself. Yeah. That's where I was hoping some of this creativity would have kicked in, and definitely not punting. That wasn't creative at all. That was just probably the most by the book play to call I've ever seen. You gotta be creative. You gotta be aggressive. And I mean, man, this was week 1, game 1 against our division rivals, man. it would have been something else had we secured that first down. It would have sealed the game. We would have ran the clock right out. We wouldn't be having this discussion probably. We would have been rejoicing and be like, man, we're the next big thing now, man. But
we'd be talking playoffs.
Oh yeah, you know it. You know it.
I want to acknowledge all the folks giving us comments. I'm obviously it's coming fast and furious, so I'm gonna throw some stuff on here, and I'm gonna let Double A answer a couple of these coming in here, what we got, and respond to a couple of these things. We got joining us on YouTube, Raymond again, say, forgot to acknowledge you, look better in the trenches than I've seen in a long time. Still got faith. Yeah, I hear you. What you think about the trenches?
Man, I love it. I love what I saw. I mean, you know, well, what was it? Yesterday, we talked about, you know, coaches being responsible and stuff like this. Had the O-line had a shaky performance, Dwayne Ledford would have been on the chopping block here, because he's the O-line coach for the Falcons. Obviously, his mentality and focus has shifted this year. I don't know if there's some heat on him, but these boys played phenomenal. I love the way Drew Dahlman played at center. I've been an advocate for him. I felt like he can anchor better than Matt Hennessy could, and it showed yesterday. 200 plus yards rushing. Other than that little misunderstanding there with the fumble snap, but other than that, it was a pretty clean game for the offensive line. I think only 2 penalties, one on McGarry, one on Jake Matthews. We saw Elijah Wilkinson, how, you know, he came in and rightfully so took the reins right from Jalen Mayfield, everybody's fan favorite there. You know, and it was evident, you know, the right choices were made for the starting 5, and I loved what I saw. Definitely got faith in those gentlemen going forward too.
The best compliment to give to an offensive line is when you don't hear them call your name.
Correct.
And not one time I got a chance to look at it on TV afterwards. And aside of the 2 penalties you just mentioned, they weren't calling their names. They were saying as a group they were doing a good job. How many times did we bury Caleb McGarry last year?
Man,
I mean, just and you have to, you know, give them credit where credit is due. I understand what the final result was, but I'm saying you got to start looking for positive things going into next season. I mean, into this season, I should say.
Into this season, yeah.
Yes, sir. John says hi to both of us, man. John Higgins.
What's going on, John?
John? How you doing, sir? Wallace has his turning point, and don't forget, y'all, we're picking up your turning points from us. He said the turning point to me when we went to that soft cover 3 zone defense, and they scored in 4 plays in 1:29. The ode to Dean Pease, Double A, tell me, where was your mindset in that 4th quarter when we seem to have gone to, even if it was soft, whatever it wasn't what was working in the first 3 quarters. What's your thoughts on the philosophy change?
Well, you know, that right there is just like not more of the same stuff. We've had games in history with this organization that we can definitely learn from. And a lot of those games from the past, we've had the lead, comfortable leads at that. We were, you know, obviously the outcome was what it was, but not learning from those mistakes and going back to it like we did yesterday, that vanilla defense, that prevent, so to say, what they call it. I was like, it's going to be a wrap. We're going to turn to this. We're actually just feeding to the New Orleans momentum. Jameis Winston was just back there just picking us apart in those zones. So once they switched up the defense, once I saw not a lot of blitzes coming, like with Jalen Hawkins and the middle linebackers going in, that was the turning point for me. I was like, yeah, here we go, man. More of the same stuff, man. It was discouraging for me, man.
Very, very much so. Brother Jermaine comes to us and says, if Herm Edwards were here now, he would say to the Falcons, you play to win the game.
No
I know
doubt.
what he's talking about. I mean, I think they were trying. I think they were trying, folks. I'm not going to – the effort was very good from the Falcons. So I think there are a lot of times when what's the first thing people say? Oh, they don't have heart. They don't have dog in them, which to me is always interesting how people judge that. But there was nothing with Atlanta's heart or effort to be questioned yesterday. Maybe technique yesterday, but I don't see the heart and effort being questioned. What about you?
Yeah, no, not at all. These boys fought to the very end, and definitely, it would have been different had they, just let New Orleans, run up the score with all the momentum that they had. But those boys, they continued to fight. They tried to find ways to execute plays, and I mean, off of that alone was gratifying to see. It's not like the team of old, so to say.
Right. My brother Senqua says, what's the difference between our prevent defense and New Orleans prevent defense? And I think that I think for 3 quarters, I think it was the fact that Jameis didn't know how to throw
Mm-hmm.
and into a certain defense. And I think for Marcus Mariota, I didn't think he had the cleanest throwing game.
No.
But I do feel like overall, Jameis hit more targets than Mariota did. What you understand where I'm going? What's
Yeah.
your thoughts on that, Double A?
Yeah, definitely. Mariota just when he dropped back, he looked shaky.
Yeah.
He did, and that's not his game. Under the center is not his game. His game is more being in the shotgun and operating from there. Yeah, definitely. Jameis Winston, they just simplified the game for him. They adjusted to what he does best, and there's those little intermediate routes, those little hooks. So they just, New Orleans did a good job, adjusting to the game within, to help Jameis succeed, which I wish Atlanta would have did for Mariota, and just have him do some more naked bootlegs, keep the defense on their toes like they had all game.
Right. A couple more comments in here. Brother Clayton says, I heard a lot of "we good" from Mariota. I'm assuming that means the line got their blocking assignments. Running back clear took it for. Am I wrong in thinking about? I think that's what he was talking about. Usually when the quarterback says we're good, he's talking about setting the line and accounting for who's on the defense, and make sure I'm on point.
Yeah, you are. I think so. Yeah.
I think that's what he was saying. Now the receivers could have come back and say, Mariota, are you good? Because Kyle Pitts, listen, Kyle Pitts, I saw him stretch up to the top of his stretching, and the ball was still 6 inches over him a couple of times. A lot of people were saying why Kyle Pitts didn't get any passes. In my personal opinion, I think Mariota just didn't have an accurate game. Am I looking at something different? I do have glasses, so am I looking at something different?
No, I mean, I think, like you mentioned, that one, it's not his strength to throw the ball, 30, 40 times. That's not his game. And when you put him in that, he's going to definitely be off target. It was more shaky than anything, like you mentioned. Kyle Pitts not being involved as much. I mean, who knows? It could have been something that he didn't like that New Orleans was throwing at him. Could have been that. Or, I mean, honestly, I really don't know why he wasn't featured enough, man. He should have been featured from beginning to finish, man. From beginning to finish.
I got a couple of comments. It's on a different screen, so you can't see it offline. One of them says, RJ says, thank you, RJ. Stay aggressive on defense. If it worked all game, and have a little faith in your team to convert on 4th and 1 late in the game. Playing scared, we'll lose every time. 16 games to go. Let's fix the easy stuff and play like we did the first quarters. Joe, I see you in the house. Appreciate you, brother. Chadwick's in the house. Say, hey, M1 was a little rusty, but he did a nice job. And then Brianne says a public apology would have been nice for the media for his childlike behavior because he's mad. Now, she's talking about Coach Smith, and I'm going to go back to that in 1 second. I'm going to read these other 2 comments. My brother Gino says hands full next week with Aaron Donald. And then my brother Jeremy Cox, what's going on, Jeremy? Jeremy says, I can't totally blame Marcus. First game with a new center. Box snacks will happen. And like Vic, getting stripped is a side effect of run first quarterbacks. He's got to tighten it up. And I believe all of that. Let me go back to Brianne's comment about Coach Smith. And I know there's some, listen, and I'm probably going to sound like I'm defending, and I'm not so much defending more than I am trying to understand. Now, these coaches, all of them, they make millions of dollars. They're paid to respond to the media responsibly and, maybe not be snipey or whatever, whatnot. You just talked to a coach who lost his opening season game against his heated rival in the last quarter, basically in the last couple of minutes of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if he's expected to be all flowers and honey during that time. And he did snipe at a couple of reporters and things like that. But the reason why I brought this back up to Brianne, and I know my partner was talking about it from Atlanta Bird Game. My brother Tidy was talking. He did have a press conference today, and he kind of walked back his attitude. Didn't say I apologize, but he did walk back some of the way he was snipping. So I ask you guys to make sure you go back and watch both press conferences if you don't have a basis to go off of what I'm talking about. But watch both press conferences, the one 30 minutes after the game, and then the one today where he had a chance to breathe and kind of take it in and just kind of say, "Hey, I'm good." What are your thoughts sometimes about maybe the media right there in your face right after the game, and how you're reacting, especially with the way that loss went down?
Like you mentioned, they make millions of dollars, so they're always supposed to hold themselves to the utmost professionalism as possible. Sure, in the heat of the moment, you might say things that are regrettable, and by it was evident. He backtracked some of his words and stuff. But the media at the end of the day, they're gonna do their job as well. They're gonna try and hit you with the hard questions. They're gonna ask the uncomfortable questions. So to that, everybody's just got to be ready to come to see what comes out. It might be not the truth that you want to hear at the moment, but they got to understand, man. This guy just finished a hard-fought game. They don't need to be as sensitive because listen, the questions that they ask, I'm sure they're not thinking, oh, what's he gonna feel about this, or how's this gonna affect him? They're gonna go ahead and ask it right away. So
that's their job.
That's your job. Yeah, that's true. There's nothing you can say.
They'll get criticized more if they don't ask.
Fact. Yeah, that's true. Great point.
Matter of fact, they'll probably get fired if they don't ask.
Yeah, you're not aggressive enough. You're not asking the right questions. We're not getting the news that we want to hear, quote unquote, or whatever it is. So yeah, they get scoring just like anybody else.
I'm gonna run through these couple of comments real quick. John comes back and says, once again, we lost this game on 2 plays: a fumble inside the 10 and a 3rd and 1 to end the end. That fumble hurt as well. Jermaine comes back and says, I hope throughout the season the Atlanta Falcons have a better record in the NFC South and keep pace with New Orleans and Tampa. False Start comes in and says, when they went into that hurry-up spread offense, my inner Bill Belichick starts saying, somebody go down on an injury and slow him down. And Bill has been known to do that. Wallace says, but I think this will make us a much better team going forward. Jermaine comes in and says, if I were Smith, I would give the team a strict talking to and explain to themselves why they lost. No excuses. Now, the last part of that, Jermaine, is he also needs to have a meeting with himself and Dean Pease to go in there, not only look in the mirror, but to also talk to Dean and say, look, what could we have done better? Yeah, this is self evaluation today as well. What could you have done better? What decisions could you have made that will make us better going into LA? Is that a fair point?
That's a very fair point. I would love to be a fly on that wall just to hear what those boys were saying today, because it had to be a lot of cleansing today. A lot of demons had to be released today because it's definitely a hard one to a hard pill to swallow, so to say. But no, it's fair. They have to recollect their thoughts and shift focus, put this one behind them, and just move forward for the Rams. 0-1 Rams team that might be playing with a chip on their shoulders, coming off a 10-day rest as well, so they got the upper hand in that. But who knows, man?
Judging by how we looked in the first half, and again, I would be surprised if I saw something like that happen again, and I know I better hold that before I say it, because if it happens again, I'll look crazy. But hey, man, yeah, if it happens again, Arthur Blank might pull the trigger quicker than he did against Dan Quinn.
True.
Let's talk the Rams, man, because right now you're talking about a Rams team, and I know the narrative have been the Rams are going to be ticked off and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams running game was really not that great.
Right.
Cooper Kupp did a great job, and he's going to be a problem.
He's going to be a problem
in this game. However, there were some things to look at. We talk about how AJ failed a lot on Michael Thomas. Jalen Ramsey did not have a great game last week.
Right.
Now, granted, we don't have Cooper Kupp, but we do have some. Look, Drake has made some flashes in his game yesterday. I'm assuming that's probably who he'll be trailing, or maybe he'll be trailing Pitts. I'm not sure. But is this a case where we're just overblowing how much it affects the Rams? Could the Falcons come to play in this game, in your opinion?
You know what, Smitty? Smitty, look at me. I'm over here.
I know. Listen, I know we look alike, right? And I know like,
oh man, we were just chopping up with him not too long ago. I gotta let him know about this one. But
you know, I was messing with Smitty. I'm telling him, say, hey, he got both of our pictures.
Yeah. You got to do a side by side. Hey, Smitty, we look alike. But now, man, shout out to
listen. Calling me Smitty is a compliment. So that's
oh man, but So one of our brighter spots is the defense, the pass rush. We're going against a Rams offensive line that's not 100% healthy. They lost their center, Brandon Allen, for a lot of time. Right. Their bookends are not what they are. Notebook or Note Bloom, whatever his name is, left tackle.
Right.
Arnold Ebiketie can eat this game. Yeah. I think if we're gonna shock the world, so to say, or whatever they want to call it, if we do come up with this W, it's got to be in the trenches again. It's got to be defensive line versus their offensive line, and I give the advantage to the Falcons' defensive line coming off performance like we did against a good New Orleans offensive line, going into this offensive line that's a little bit shakier. I think we can make some noise and really ramp this thing up and make Matt Stafford one-dimensional as he is. He can't really evade the rush. He's a statue by some sort, I think we can get home and get to him effectively, and that, I think that could be crucial in the outcome of the game.
And let's not forget, he's still probably nursing that elbow just a little bit too. Now, it was enough to give Cooper Kupp quite a big day, but at the same time, maybe a couple of hits here, maybe a couple of things there to make him uncomfortable. And the Falcons defense made New Orleans uncomfortable yesterday. So to your point, I like that matchup. Now, the offensive line got all the kudos they should have received yesterday, but now adding Aaron Donald to the mix, this is a whole different ball game. What do you think our prospects are as far as holding that defensive line of the Rams up?
So definitely we got a scheme to, go away from Aaron Donald. A lot of stretch plays, a lot of bootlegs, a lot of play actions, keepers and things like that. Definitely got to keep that defense, on their toes, so to say, and go away from Aaron Donald. Definitely can't run up the middle because he's going to be right there. Right. He's going to definitely be right there, and he's a game wrecker in his own sense. So we definitely got to strategize and game plan away from Aaron Donald effectively. Take him right out.
Have that game plan that says, okay, he's over there, and just and everybody just shift over to the other side.
True.
Paul Star says we look better than Dallas. Yeah, Dallas is in trouble now with
big time
going out. Jermaine says if I was Smith, I'd give the team a strict talking to and explain why they lost. No excuses. Right. Wallace says, I know that we lost, but there was a lot of positive things that happened that we could pull off an upset against the Rams because they didn't look good either. Yeah. Jermaine comes in and says, if the Falcons do win against the Rams next Sunday, it could be a turning point for the better. We shouldn't underestimate LA. I was thinking about this, and I'm in no way trying to say the team's going to have the same results, but I go back and look at 2016, coming off a year that the 8-8 year where we won the 5 straight and then ended up 8-8. Next year, people didn't expect us to do much. We lost the first game, a close game, against Jameis when he was playing at Tampa. And then we took a road trip out to, at that time, was it Oakland first, then Denver? Or Denver first?
I think it was Oakland first, then
Oakland
Denver.
first, and then Denver. And everybody said there's no way the Falcons could survive that particular test. And we had a young defense. Remember when Debo and Jarrett has in his second year, we had a Hagelman. So the similarities in these situations are kind of interesting. And again, with the Rams, they don't know a whole lot what to expect with this team as far as these young folks. So what are your prospects, not only with the Rams on this West Coast swing with the Falcons?
So definitely having a good game plan always is the formula. See how we can feature these guys. We have, a plethora of linebackers that could definitely get to the passer, starting with Sean Evans, Michael Walker, we saw that, Lorenzo Carter and Arnold Ebiketie. I think, just putting the game on them to see how much they can affect it, I think could be a true outcome to the game as well. Like you mentioned, the Rams don't know really that much about what the Falcons have. A lot of our guys are first-year starters, Michael Walker being one. I don't know what they know about Rashaan Evans, even though he's been, in the league as much as he has, but they really haven't been exposed to his style of play. I think that the linebackers for this game here could be a turning factor as well.
Yeah, I'm just under the impression that I think we can surprise the Rams no different than we surprise some folks about the Saints. I know this is a bigger beast. You got to respect the defending national champions, the defending Super Bowl champions. But at the same time, as we saw in the NFL yesterday, there were not a lot of blowouts in the NFL yesterday. The first couple of games, somebody said it yesterday, it's kind of still like preseason because a lot of these folks are still, that fourth game in preseason was when everybody kind of started putting grease in the axle, kind of making everything kind of roll and stuff. And I think teams are still finding out about themselves. So what better time to get these teams than early before they gel and really become cohesive? And I just think they are right to get.
I think so. Catch them at the right spot. I know that ego of theirs over there is definitely bruised right now. Coming off a Super Bowl like that and then getting demolished by Josh Allen. It definitely did something to him.
It did. I had one more question to ask, and listen, the comments have been awesome. The viewership has been awesome. I appreciate everyone joining us today, especially my guest Alberto coming in and playing co-anchor with me today. Tonight's game, Denver versus Seattle. Everybody, give me your call on that, and Double A, I'm gonna let you start off and end it by giving us your prediction on tonight's game.
Oh man! All right, so Russell Wilson definitely now switching uniforms. Now he's over in Denver. A lot of news is coming out of him that he was just as good as gone a couple years ago to the Browns.
Saw that.
I know that he's going to play with the mindset like, all right, this is what you guys wanted to do here. Take this. I still got some left in the tank, man. So I think it's a revenge game for him, no doubt. Outcome of the game, I say it's a blowout. I'm talking like 40 to 17 type blowout. And the Denver Broncos have the offense to put up the points, and Russell Wilson's going to probably be running all over that field to prove a point that he still got it. He's still that dude.
There are times when I would try to give the home team a little bit of respect in this situation. I'm here to tell you as much as everybody was quick to talk about Atlanta's situation, Seattle is starting Geno Smith. I'm sorry.
Right? No,
Let
yeah.
that sink in.
Right.
Seattle is starting Geno Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And that alone gives Denver 10 points. But to your point, I think it's going to be worse than that. I truly look at it. I look, Seattle might look up and get maybe 10, but I look at Denver doing a blowout number. I'll go with, giving Seattle a little love, I'll go with maybe 34-10, somewhere in that vicinity. Again, Russell goes wild, Sierra gets to dance, and everybody, has a great time at this game. But I think Denver does it today. I don't even think it's going to be that close.
Yeah,
I look at
sure.
Denver in this game. Fella, I appreciate everybody joining us. Please, Alberto, tell people where you are. And folks, I need y'all to support him like he supports me in this endeavor.
Well, people, my name is Alberto. This is the name of the show, 95 North Falcons Talk Show. Yeah, it's called 95 North, man. I'm up here in New England, believe it or not. Like, probably the only fan up here in New England that reps the Falcons hard. And yes, that's where the name of the show comes from, 95 North Falcons Talk Show. You can find that on YouTube. I have content on there right now. If you can, just please go view it, watch it, share it, like it, subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. I'm also on the Twitter, on the RI Falcons. Very active on that, and definitely, man, if anybody ever want to DM me with questions or thoughts, please feel free. I'm always there.
Appreciate you as always, brother. Just look forward to doing more content with you. Of course, I appreciate all the insight. And again, y'all make sure y'all hit them up on YouTube. And look, everyone have a great Monday. Enjoy the Monday night game. Take care. You have somebody asking, what's your Twitter again?
All right, Falcons.
All right, Falcons.
Yep. Just R and I and then Falcons. Plain, just like that. Appreciate it.
All right. So you already got some folks.
I love it, man.
Already, man. See what I mean?
It's tough. Hey, listen, it's a challenge, man. I'm doing this platform like this because our boy Smitty, he paves the way.
Smitty is the man.
He kept telling me, make a channel. I did. I was like, Smitty, it's gonna be hard for me, man. You know where I'm at.
Everybody, a lot of people know Smitty Sports Machine, just in case we mentioned his name a couple of times. I guess since I'm his doppelganger. Smitty Sports Machine on YouTube. Y'all check him out as well. Man, enjoy yourself. Look, thanks again, everybody. Y'all have a great evening, and we'll catch y'all down the road. Peace.
Thanks.